Hey everybody, video here for you today. Ancient America series. I have not made a video on Kansas yet. I've mentioned it in a few different videos, but we're going to go down to Stanton County. It's right down here, the western side of Kansas. Interesting find made down here. Some work. I just questioned it a little. Here's the area of Stanton County. You notice just north of here, at one point in history, a tremendous amount of water, outburst flood caused this valley down here. Just a small river remains today. Scale invariance, I believe that is a term Randall Carlson uses. I want to thank some people in Kansas for sending me some articles about some mound sites. I still might talk about those, but here's an article I found. Mystery solved. Scientists reconstruct 10,300-year-old bison hunt. Here's a look at a guy digging at the site here that I'm going to talk about. It says a team of archaeologists led by Randall from the University of Kansas has reconstructed what happened on a Kansas bison hunt by Paleoindians on a day in Stanton County, Kansas, 10,300 years ago. I have talked about a few other sites, I believe one in Idaho, one in Texas, where a lot of bison bones were found, but little evidence of hunting. So do we really have these stories correct of what researchers are putting forward of what happened at these places? Well, I wonder. No, I did not find a lot on this site, but I did find this older website. This dates it to about maybe 1,000 years earlier, about 9,000 years ago. But here's some look at this nondescript area, western Kansas. Whole layer of bison bones near Bear Creek here. Here's a better look at the site where they found this strange layer of bison bones. They attribute it to ancient hunting 10,300 years ago in that more recent article, but here is the sedimentation, and the bison bones are down here at the bottom. Here's what they look like. I'll talk about that in just a second. But here are the levels, the stratigraphy in the area. Here's the bison bones, and then this layer about 9,000 years ago. They say this was put right on top of this, buried it instantly. Was this due to hunting, this layer of bison bones? Well, I really question that. Just getting back to this article here that came out about 3 years ago, it says in the summer of 2002, an archaeology team dug out a portion of Bear Creek in Stanton County and found bones and a mystery buried under a few feet of gray soil. Ralph Rolf Mandel is a geoarchaeologist from the University of Kansas who's been one of the leading explorers hunting evidence of Paleoindians, the ancient ancestors of Native Americans. But what he first uncovered when he and a team of other archaeologists started digging holes along the dirt bank here was a thick bed of white bones stretching 40 yards. 40 yards, nearly half the length of a football field, the skeletons all bunched, shoulder to shoulder, all 10,300 years old. What he found was more than a great story, Mandel said. It is a window in time and an ancient testament to human daring. But were they really hunting here? Is that the story that we should accept? It talks about the age of the site here. It says it is so old that at 103 centuries ago, the bow and arrow hadn't been invented yet. The hunters killed the bison from not much more than an arm's length, attacking the herd that was incredibly dangerous. But that's what those hunters did. And I really question that. Randall Carlson has talked about other ancient sites. I believe one in the Dakotas where a lot of ancient remains of megafauna were found. And then he really questions the story that we are told that these were all hunted at this one spot and way back in time, over 10,000 years ago, pushing it back into that younger Dryas period. That's so mysterious. What really happened? Well, I think we should ask those questions. Of course, the younger Dryas ended about 11,600 years ago, and I say this time period pushes back into that period. But even after the younger Dryas, there was an incredible amount of flooding. We really don't know how those outburst floods took place and in what chronological order, but those are things we should think about. Would humans 10,300 years ago, or however old it was, it's just very ancient, would they have killed a whole group of bison? And these bison were bigger than the ones we have today, even. They were incredibly dangerous. Would they have left remains 40 yards long, half a football field, shoulder to shoulder, killed bison at one spot? Uh, that story's a little hazy to me, a little flimsy, doesn't make a lot of sense. Here's a comparison, today's buffalo to these antiquous buffalo that were around up until roughly 10,000 years ago, when ancient man killed a whole bunch of them, left remains shoulder to shoulder. Would they have gotten that close to these dangerous animals? Well, some stories from our past, and coming from that long ago period, I really question. Now, they found a few spear points at this place, but nothing that would indicate a massive hunt. It says the Paleoindians who hunted bison back then were hunter gatherers, said University of Kansas anthropologist Jack Hoffman. They lived, hunted, and gathered mostly in small bands, including families, 10 to 20, maybe 30 people tops. So they killed a whole bunch of bison, that small group of people, and left a bone deposit 40 yards long. This is getting a little more ridiculous the more I read. Other interesting things said about this site is this 1 meter layer of early Holocene alluvium, this flood deposit, could have been deposited on these bones very quickly, but they say these bones could have been exposed to the air for as much as 500 years, and it's really hard to determine that. They say the bones are in very good shape, the bison bones, except for the legs. They appear to all be broken, as if they were stuck in some kind of flood deposit. So were these animals hunted? Well, I really question that. Were they buried pretty quickly by a flood deposit? Well, it appears that could very likely be the case. Now, I'm not sure how they came to that conclusion that the bones were all in pretty good shape except for the leg bones, which were seemed to be stuck in flood deposit, but I'm sure archaeologists have their way of figuring those things out. I just thought this was a very interesting story. Now, there are reasons why they think this was a hunting site. They did find a couple spear points at the site. This is one of them. It says the complete point was recovered in situ with the tip down at an oblique angle at the bone bed level, but just beyond the margin of dense bone concentration. So they think this was actually thrown and left stuck in the ground and then left there for thousands of years. A few spear points. Is that evidence of a massive boneyard 40 yards long? Of course, there was massive bison hunts that took place in the American West, but in relatively recent times, and they are fairly well documented. But 10,000 years ago, would humans have even been capable of hunting bison at a massive rate? I doubt it. I just thought I would do this today, finally a video on Kansas. Beneath these farm fields, a mystery, something that went on 10,000 years ago. Do we have this story right? Well, that's why I made this video today. That is a video coming from Western Kansas. Was glad to do that one today. Questioning history. Well, I think there's a lot of history that needs to be questioned. That is one story coming from a time period we know very little about. Hope you thought that was interesting. And you all have a very nice day.